Welcome back, everybody. Yeah, it's a Modern Relics
We are
podcast.
back.
I'm Angel. He's Lucky. What's going on, dude? How are you? It's the first stream since the election.
Yes, it is.
We've had a
I've had a
minute
good-
to let the baby rage and the platitudes pour from the left and
Yeah.
saturate our every fiber. How are you doing this week?
I'm doing fantastic.
Awesome.
I think it's been a pretty good month. My Dodgers won the World Series.
Saw that.
And then from there, it looks like we've taken a clean sweep of the Senate, and depending on reports, the House
Mm-hmm.
and the presidency, and things are looking up. Things are already shifting within the global structure of how things operate. There's already movers and shakers moving around.
Indeed, there are.
It's been wild, and also I think I've probably been arbitrarily deleted off of many social media accounts just without having said a word. I haven't said a word on social media politically at all, but there's been such vitriol towards anybody and everybody who could have possibly not leaned in Kamala Harris's direction.
Yeah. The level of animus has been outstanding with some of the people that I follow on various social media platforms. And then
How's Redacted been?
Redacted has been a shit show, as one could imagine.
I kind of
The
figured it would be.
the halls are saturated with tears at this point. It's funny to me how people can just think that it's cool to just openly complain to a very high personal degree about the political state of the country when they should be working. You know,
Yeah.
in a forum that has nothing to do with politics at all. And I
Right.
always find that delightful, where it's just like, man, this is completely unnecessary. But
Yeah.
thank you for wearing your heart on a sleeve again, just like you did 4 years ago,
Yeah.
or 8 years ago.
Now, don't get me wrong. Much like you, I'm in no position to think that Donald Trump is the savior of the United States.
No.
Nor is he even close. I don't think that he's going to fix my life. I don't think that he's even the best choice of human on the planet to be president.
Mhm.
Like, I've never ever claimed that. Is he
I think
my
we're
pick?
both aligned.
Yeah. Is he my pick right now with
Mhm.
what was on the table? Yeah, absolutely. And it's due to what he did. Like I said before, I did not vote for him in 2016. I did in 2020 because he changed my mind. And I think that he deserved a second opportunity, especially with all of the insanity that was thrown at him for the last 4 or 5 years. And I think that he deserved a second chance to kind of maybe finish the job. And I align with at least 80% of what the man is trying to do. Do I agree with him on everything? No.
Yeah.
No. But the only person that's going to fill that role for me is Jesus. So, like, there's never, ever going to be a human being that actually can step into that role that I think will have the moral fiber and fortitude to be able to, that I would be able to follow wholeheartedly and be like, that is the guy. And because there's nobody else that's going to be able to do that other than Jesus. So do I think he's going to be our savior? Absolutely not. Do I think the country is going to be better for him sitting in that chair for the next 4 years? Yes, I do. And it's just the way.
Yeah. I don't want to take a victory lap here, but it is, and we have, by the way, if you're listening to this, we have a very long stream that I'm not going to cut up into a podcast and re-air it. You can find it on our YouTube channel, where I think I went for 7.5 hours or something on election night. So you'll get some raw, as it happens, thoughts. And Lucky was able to join later, and we were joined by friend of the podcast, Paul. So go check it out if you want. I don't think that it's worth taking shots at the opposition. What it is worth in my opinion, saying is that every single swing state or battleground state in this election cycle was won by the Republican Party, with the exception of Minnesota, which had a chance to go one way or the other. And in the midst
But
of overwhelming
fair, though,
odds,
to be fair, though, Minnesota was not considered a swing state, though. It just like Virginia.
yeah, it was
It got
battlegroundy.
closer. Yeah, it was closer than it's ever been in years. So, but
To me,
as far as
that just says like the American electorate is tired of the really deep left woke, like hyper radicalized version of the Democratic Party that they continue to push. And I think that speaks way more volumes, knowing that this is the first Republican since 1988, I think, that won both the Electoral College and the popular vote against a candidate that, by my estimation, has failed upwards her entire career, coming from a party that's dominated the system for the last 12 of 16 years. So if you're going to sit there and decry how democracy is over and don't be friends with me on insert name of social media platform here because we're just not going to make it because the entire country just voted in institutionalized hate. I think you're not looking objectively at what's going on here. You know, like
Right.
I
Yeah.
think that is obvious, and to a frankly breathtaking degree from me. I didn't expect the election to swing and then crash as hard as it crashed in favor of the Republicans. Like, to me, I thought this would be nail bitey, and I was furious because it's like, hey, this person really hasn't spoke about any of the topics that she wants to campaign against, save for the abortion piece, which she knew she would win. And every national poll we looked at said that was 11% of what mattered to the American electorate. 11%. So
even then,
89% is interested in other shit that she can't speak about. Like,
Right.
to me, that's overwhelming. That's not a victory lap. That's just how the lay of the land looks now.
Yeah.
So
But
I'm
even
with you.
to your point with the abortion thing, like
Yeah.
they thought they had that in the bag, but it turns out that Gen Z women apparently disproportionately voted for Trump in a way that they didn't even remotely come close to expecting. And it was due to the fact that apparently more Gen Z and millennial women buy eggs and milk than they do get abortions.
Yeah.
And that's really what the vote came down to.
Imagine.
And one of the things that I think was very telling, because right now they're trying to spin, they can't fathom the loss. That particular sect of people who are freaking out on the internet, they can't understand it. Like it's just not computing with them because they do not have mirrors upon their life. They do not, all they see is what they think the rest of the world thinks the way they do. So they just don't understand it. They thought it was going to be the numbers and opposite. That it was going to be an overwhelming landfall in their direction. So now they're trying to scratch their heads to figure it out. And what the new thing that they've been saying all over the internet, and Twitter has been insane, or X or whatever has been insane with this, is that they think that Elon Musk stole the election with his satellites.
Yeah.
That he shifted a bunch of things like that. So that's their new thing. But what's really telling to me is that they're allowed to deny the election results.
Right.
On all social media platforms. All of them. And
nobody else was.
Even Elon Musk's, who, is allowing them to deny the election results. Which tells me that they weren't stolen. if you're allowed to question it, then it wasn't stolen, right? So, but yeah, it's one of those things that I think that we are now, instead of because I want to do a victory dance, and I'll do one locally here, and I'll admit, I woke up the next day terrified that the results were flipped, and I got up at 7 a.m. and looked at my phone.
Mm-hmm.
And then also after that, over the next day or two, I felt a huge weight that I didn't even realize was on my shoulders over the last 4 years, just completely lifted. And I was excited for the future for the first time. But I want to do a victory dance, and I'm going to do one locally later on in the show. However, on a national scale, I don't think it's time for that. I think there's time for retribution. I think there's, and by retribution, I mean legal going after people who broke the law in a way that is not celebratory, in a way that is actually just functional within the legal system of what we did. And there's a lot of it, but I think it has to be done right, systematically, and I think it has to be done in full view. But I also don't think that it's time to rub the nose of everyone in it. I think it's time to get work done.
Yeah.
There's too much work to do
That's what I said last week, right? It was like, look, we've got 4 years with a triple majority, it looks like.
We actually have less than that. We have 500 days.
Yeah, this is the time to execute as much as we can to preserve what America is and try our best to build a decent bench to continue representing what the articles of the Constitution are supposed to empower our leadership to do. And that to me is momentarily exciting. And also it feels like someone just flipped the hourglass and set it on the table.
Yeah, absolutely. Cause I mean, midterms is in 2 years.
Yep.
So we have just over 500 days to get our ducks in a row and get the work done, because the midterms aren't guaranteed to us. It could absolutely flip. They could do a whole bunch of shenanigans to flip it. And so the work needs to be done in that first 500 days. So if you see a power push from this administration, just know that it's due to that timeline.
Yep.
It's not because they're just getting out there and being aggressive. It's because they're under the gun. They have to get this stuff done. Anything their administration wants to get done, it has to get done within that timeline. So I'm excited to see what happens. I'm also, it's been real quiet as far as what we anticipated would happen within the structure of what the left was going to do if he won. Like, there's been a few instances of flare-ups, but nothing. And there's a lot of speculation that they're going to be waiting until inauguration and vote counting and do their own version of a J6 situation. But
and that's where I think a lot of the alternative media voices, you know, folks like Joe Rogan, interested parties, folks like Elon Musk, that's where stepping up the security is going to be really important, because I agree with you. I think that's when the proverbial shots will be fired from the left, so to speak. And hopefully that's not a literal sentiment. But I mean, President Trump has had 2 to possibly 3 attempts on his life already. You know, my God.
Well,
so we'll see.
Yeah. He's already started building his cabinet, and there's some that I'm real happy with and some that I'm like, I think he tapped Marco Rubio for Secretary of State. That one I'm on the fence about. But today he tapped Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk for the Department of it's a new department head. Basically,
Department of Efficiency in Government, or Doge.
Yeah. That's it.
The Dogecoin returns.
Yeah. So those two are going to be basically hacking and slashing at all the departments, and I couldn't be more excited about that.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for my invitation letter to join the cabinet, so we'll see.
It's coming. It's coming.
It could be.
It's coming by owl, like a Hogwarts thing.
I literally have family that served in an administrative role under W.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, my biological grandfather. There's a big plaque on the wall with him shaking hands with him and his thank you for your service letter and the dates of his service to the administration of George W. Bush and stuff. on his wall in his office. It's pretty cool.
That is cool.
Don't know what he
But-
did, but there's that.
So
I did.
the rest of it. Go ahead.
No, go for it.
I was just gonna say the rest of his cabinet, like Christy Nome has been tapped.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Huckabee has been tapped. There's been I've heard Kash Patel has been tapped. There's a lot of people that he's kind of tapping for cabinet heads but the ones that I was really happy about was that he said Nikki Haley and Mike Pompeo will not be joining my
I saw
cabinet. And that makes me super happy. At least he's learned his lesson in certain regards. I just kind of hope that he keeps kind of neocons and warhawks out of that situation as much as possible.
Anyone that's
There's
ever even
rumors of-
had dinner with the Cheneys, maybe not so much. Like,
Yeah. Ron Paul's actually been tapped to old Ron Paul. He's like 80 something years
Good,
old.
bring him
and
in.
they're like, yeah.
let's
And
whittle
that's-
with that guy for a while over some policy.
Apparently they're going to put him somewhere in the realm of handling the Fed. And if that's the case, we may see the Fed just completely disappear.
That's what you love
And
to hear.
that would be amazing.
Yeah, I sent you that Instagram thing that I think Rogan or someone, Dave Riley or somebody posted about the digital bill of rights and stuff that Trump was talking about. I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
Like the
coming
suppression
out
of free
strong.
speech stuff, let's go. Let's quash that as fast as we possibly can.
Yeah. I hope that he comes out and pardons a bunch of people out of the gate.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of people like that I would love to see. We'll see what his first day, let's hope he gets to his first day, because that's also the other thing that's on everybody's brain is like,
just at the announcement, you and I were dead on every single topic that we brought up as a possibility for Trump's return. Every single one of them. Like, I had mentioned, well, all the world aggressors, will say, depending on how strongly you feel about the terrorism line, are all going to take a pause for the next 4 years on their go forward plan with the right president elect. And suddenly the Hamas leadership is trying to call for an immediate end to the war.
Putin is too.
Putin is ready to talk. Like there's a lot that's happened in a positive direction on that front, specific to the taxation of our country. And he's not even there yet.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't even have the job yet. So to me, that's my momentary sigh of relief while I know we're on the clock here. But I was excited too. And I agree with you again, from my perspective. I don't think Donald Trump is, if I could just touch the hem of his garment, all will be well. But given the opportunity and the options before us, it's way better outcome, in my opinion, than another 4 years of what was cranked up to 11. You know what I mean? Like it's the Nigel Tufnell, but ours goes to 11. I can't fathom where we would be 4 years from now after that. So
yeah,
I did want to peel back the covers a little bit on Washington State, if I could.
Yeah.
I have taken some shots at Washington State on this podcast a lot of times.
We both have. I have too. I've been right there with you, but yeah, you've definitely for sure.
I'm just going to say, I'm going to lay off Washington for a little while after this. I just started writing and kept on writing and doing research for almost a whole day. And I wrote, I'm just calling this insert the Washington effect. So here's where you guys landed in Washington. Kamala Harris, 58.1% of the votes. Donald Trump, 38.9%. So landslide in favor of Kamala Harris. U.S. Senate, Maria Cantwell, 60%. Raul Garcia for the Republican Party, 40%. Governor Bob Ferguson, 56% of the votes. For Dave Reichert's, 44%. Here are the measures that you guys voted. Ensuring access to natural gas was on your ballot. And this ballot would measure, this ballot measure would ensure access to natural gas in homes and other buildings and repeal a state law requiring plans to transition from the use of natural gas to electricity. You guys voted yes. And I think that's a good thing. So more than just the electric energy dominance. And that's about as positive as things get. Measure 2109, repealing capital gains tax. Ballot measure would repeal a state capital gains tax charged on sales of certain long-term assets, such as and including stocks and bonds. You guys said, no, don't repeal that. We love our capital gains taxes. Take more money. 64% of you said that. 2117, repealing the cap on carbon emissions. The ballot measure would repeal a state law requiring certain businesses, including gas stations, to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions or purchase allowances to cover them. Over 50% of the vote needed to pass to repeal that cap, and you guys said, hell no, keep it on there. So your gas prices are going to remain really, really, really high, because 62% of you said, we love it. Measure 2124 allows people to opt out of state long-term healthcare programs. This ballot measure allows people to opt out of paying assessments for and receiving benefits from a state-run long-term healthcare insurance program. You guys said, nope. We don't want to opt out of that. We want the state to provide as much as they can. 55.4% of you said that. And I want to turn my attention to Bob Ferguson. Okay? This is your former attorney general who secretly handled 2 lawsuits aimed at effectively nullifying popular voter-backed initiatives slated for this November's ballot. The initiative organizers and the media were deliberately kept in the dark by Ferguson. In fact, Ferguson himself acknowledged in court documents that these interested parties were intentionally excluded from being informed. Ferguson should not have been on the case. As a governor, or gubernatorial, I love that word, gubernatorial candidate, he opposed all 4 initiatives, and some of his own campaign donors and supporters were the plaintiffs in the case. So even a first-year law student or a casual fan of Judge fucking Judy would know that Ferguson should have recused himself over a minimum at the appearance of a conflict. Adding to the controversy, Ferguson didn't alert Haywood or the millions of voters potentially disenfranchised by the lawsuits. Haywood only learned of the case mere hours before a Friday Supreme Court hearing when the media members stumbled upon the information by accident. Number 2. There was an Ellis case that dominated Washington headlines, where records were released to several news organizations, including my source at the News Tribune, where 36 invoices from 2 law firms totaling $3,367,000, and an additional 32 invoices from expert witnesses, private investigators, outside consultants, whose work amounted to another $686,000, that included the expertise of a jury consultant known for his work on the O.J. Simpson murder case. In the Ellis case, he helped conduct a mock trial, traveled to Tacoma from California for jury selection, and brought outside costs to the Attorney General's office, which they happily paid in this Ellis case, to at least $4,053,000, and it's still counting. So tallying the true cost would have to include investigations that took place before Matthew Collins and Christopher Burbank were charged with the murder, and Timothy Rankine with manslaughter. These are 3 Tacoma Police Department officers. Also, the $1.5 million the city of Tacoma collectively paid the men to resign from the city's police department after a jury acquitted him of all charges. When you threw over $4 million at the problem to penalize the police for what you considered racially slated brutality and in excess, discounting the fact that there was a major heart condition with the deceased, and discounting the obscene levels of methamphetamine in that person's blood. This is bananas, and it goes on. Pierce County spent preparing for the trial, such as a trip to Hennepin County, Minnesota, where a contingent of the representatives for the DA's office toured the district court facilities, where former police officer Derek Chauvin was convicted of the murder of George Floyd, trying to find and posit similarities between what happened in the George Floyd case to this particular issue. There's also the $4 million that the family of Ellis was to be paid by the Pierce County, or by Pierce County, to settle part of a wrongful death lawsuit, and the internal investigation done by the Tacoma Police Department. You could probably also count the money that Collins, Burbank, and Rankine were paid while on administrative leave for 3 years as the case dragged on. Some other police departments in the U.S. have suspended pay for officers accused of crimes, and the costs might continue to grow. In April, Rankine and his wife claims filed claims seeking $47 million to pile onto this in damages from the Tacoma and the state officials because of the DA's office, alleging that he was falsely accused of racially biased policing during his tenure with the Tacoma PD. By the way, the Ellis family lawsuit is still live against Tacoma and the officers identified as being involved in Ellis's death in an ongoing U.S. District Court. The third point I want to make is that State Attorney General Bob Ferguson's office and the Department of Social and Health Services have been ordered to pay another $122,555 in attorney fees on top of an existing $200,000 sanction for wrongfully withholding evidence in an ongoing lawsuit he was involved in. In March, Judge Ryan levied the initial $200,000 discovery sanction for what he called the state's, and I quote, egregious and cavalier, end quote, failure to turn over nearly 11,000 pages of records to attorneys suing over the alleged severe neglect of a developmentally disabled woman, Emily Tobin, in an adult family home in Kent. Quick fact check. Bob Ferguson's office did not release any sexually violent predators from McNeil Island as the media is portraying. An Island County judge ordered the release, and the state said it could no longer prove the man fit the criteria of sexually violent predator. The state made the decision based on a doctor's evaluation. The doctor who previously said the man did fit the criteria says that he no longer did, and without evidence that, in this case, I'll use the example of Paul Harrell, was likely not to reoffend. So Ferguson took the case and said the state couldn't meet the burden of proof to continue to classify him as a sexually violent predator, and the Island County judge then ordered Paul Harrell to be released. By the way, Paul Harrell went on to immediately rape and reoffend. By the way. And finally, to the people that I love and care about that remain in Washington State, I re-listened to a podcast that I produced in March of 2022 where I recounted why I wanted to get out. It's been nearly long enough that I almost forgot about the homeless encampments. I'd all but forgotten about the wailing of drug addicts outside of my windows, the endless road construction projects, and the suitcases and bags of dismembered human remains that washed up near Alki Beach just 200 feet in front of my door, and the days that followed in my own apartment, watching police, Coast Guard, and FBI drag Elliott Bay in front of my apartment looking for more human remains. An apartment, by the way, that was sinking into the sand as I chuckled every morning at my lopsided bedroom window as I woke up, and it got worse. I had to put myself back into the frame of mind that I was in as I listened to my own voice describe why I felt like I was decaying in a lifestyle that seemed to fade from purpose. I had to rationalize with myself that it wasn't, quote, giving up, and there weren't any changes that I could make that I hadn't tried already. So, to you that remain, things are going to get much, much worse in Washington. Yes, crime is going to get absolutely out of control and will continue to go unabated as Bob Ferguson now ascends into the governor's mansion, as your fellow electorate pushes harder into the deep left ideology, as your votes cemented the gas prices as high as possible with zero repeals on any cap toward carbon emissions and the like. And any voices leaning toward narrative change will be met with extreme opposition. If you speak up, your jobs are going to be at risk, and if you stay quiet, probably your livelihood due to crime. And every move you make will cost a premium to the state still collecting their taxes. Some of you probably can't get out, some of you simply won't, but for what it's worth, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This is going to be so much worse than California State under Gavin Newsom, as this man with 3 that I could count in a day's worth of research in the last 9 months, unbelievable scandals that would obliterate any other candidate running for a public office, is now ascending into the governor's mansion in the highest elected office of the state, coming from a decorated track record of lying, stealing, misappropriating, and being an absolute blight on the district attorney's pages of history within Washington State's legacy. And that is who you guys voted in as your governor. So for those that didn't, I don't know what to tell you. It's going to be infinitely worse than the way I felt coming out of the pandemic 3 years ago when I moved. Coming up on 4 next year.
That if you didn't vote in this direction, it is time to start.
It's probably time to go. right?
It's time to start looking,
Like,
packing, start looking for other jobs out of state. Pick a state that fits your principles, that fits
yeah.
how you vote. Go there. Start.
Find a
And
community. You start by finding a community that you feel safe in.
yeah,
Just look
Yeah.
around. Like, are small businesses open for business? Are the streets? Do you have staggering zombies doing the fentanyl lean and wailing outside your windows as you step over bodies and needles to get to work or your car, or what's left of your car, or the
Right.
bus that you have to take because you can't afford fuel? Like, it's that bad, dude. It is that bad.
It's daily. I see on my social media feed one of my friends or clients, and it's not. I'm not being facetious. I'm not exaggerating. It is daily. I see somebody say my car got broken into, my car got stolen. I got assaulted on the street by a drug addict. Somebody smashed out my windows of my business. Over and over and over and over again. If you didn't vote for this stuff, get out. Find your escape plan. Put in the effort to it, especially if you got a family. You're obligated to get them out of there, just on a safety level, but also on a financial level, on a mental health level. Everything that you could possibly think of, that state is going to crush and kill anybody and everybody who stays in it that that did not vote for this stuff. If you voted for this stuff, have at it. It's your dystopia. Enjoy it.
The whole idea for me to get irked to take a look at this guy on a deeper level, you know, and I've lived through 12 years of him as the DA, so I'm quite familiar with the cases that he didn't take and the ones that he did. But prior to that, I noticed that there was a outlier in this voting cycle where the state in the country that pushed hardest left was Washington. And I had to look at the results, and then I had to kind of peel them back. And then I started learning about all three of those scandals were in save for the 2 out of 3, save for the trial with the police that continues to drag on. But all the other 2 are within the last 9 months.
Yeah.
The last 9 months.
I was there I remember the police officer scandal down in Tacoma, and I remember that going on. So,
and they were instantly acquitted by people that could kind of transparently see through this barrage of Los Angeles, you know, specialty consultants that were brought in to help the state's case. And then you start to see the bills pile in, and that doesn't cover per diems, food, hotels, and they listed all that stuff. It's wild how much money he was willing to throw at the state's police officers for this case, because it was basically for social credit, in my opinion, on how hard the Seattle's fighting against the very mean and bad Gestapo police departments across the country. And that's not why they're there.
As much as California has taken heat and crap for being the biggest hellhole on the West Coast for so many years, I think Washington this election cycle just took the crown.
They pressed into first place with the policies they're looking to go for. And then his first, and I couldn't stomach watching 57 minutes of his first press conference. But within the first 10 or so that I did watch, he announced that he had been legally preparing for a Trump win, and that how hard he's going to try and hit the federal government with all these crazy lawsuits about how things are not equitable and how people are being racially discriminated against, and how his team is ready to fight the big red machine at every step of the way if there was a Trump win. And here it is. So let's get ready. This is what you elected me for. Yeah. It's going to get bad, dude.
It's going to get real bad. Yeah. Washington's going to get bad. In that vein with California, though, I don't know if you noticed after the election results, but like the county I grew up in, Nevada County, for the first time ever flipped red. And in fact, many other counties did too. California flipped way more red this time than it has in decades.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen a lot of people online, all of my old past California friends and stuff, grumbling that they could have taken it this time had the massive amount of people not become refugees and left to go not only to Idaho, but also to like Tennessee and Florida and Texas and, you know, all of these other places. And it emptied the state of all the good voters. And so they're kind of, and I'm like, but was it enough? Was it enough to flip the state? And that's something that I don't think Washington is even in the ranking for at the moment. I don't think
and
if
yet
people
their
stayed in
collective
Washington-
cries that the Republican Party actions are an attack on democracy. They're
Yeah.
willfully misappropriating, lying, stealing. You sued legal petitioners in your own state that were legally gathering signatures to put initiatives on a ballot to be presented to the electorate.
Yeah.
I don't even remotely support what they were trying to put on the ballot, but I damn sure support the fact that they had the opportunity to and were doing things legally. Not only
And the
did you
right
sue
to.
them, you took the fucking case in court. This is your governor as an AG.
Yeah.
To me, that's frightening. So I'm going to take a step back on taking shots at Washington for a while, but that doesn't look promising for their futures at all. In fact,
No.
every single
gonna-
initiative, with the exception of the natural gas split, could not have gone worse for the Washington taxpayer. Could
It's
not
gonna
have
be
gone worse.
It's going to be a bleak 10 years, like because this 4-year term, this 4-year situation,
Yeah.
the amount of damage that's going to happen it's like a train, and you can put the brakes on, but it's going to take a while for it to stop and reverse. So you've got a decade before you could even, if you stopped the train right now,
Right.
like this was the last election, but I don't see that happening. I see it kind of going full Detroit here. I mean, I've been calling that it's going to be Detroit for a while, and they just keep doing it.
And that was what I
Um,
was going to end this segment on. Was I think you nailed it years ago on a different pod when you said, actually, they're going to hit it so hard that there won't be anyone left to go get their car and warm it up. There won't be anyone left to cook them breakfast at their favorite restaurant. The elite is just going to wake up and realize, oh shit, everyone that functionally needs a job to survive can't be here anymore. And I have to
Yeah.
do this myself. And then what? You're just going to relocate and start over again?
Yeah. So what's gonna end up happening is they're going to, through policy and through crime, and through cost of living and everything else, they're going to wipe out the entire middle class of people who wash your cars, who, you know, bag your groceries, who work at the grocery stores, who do all the work, who do all the work, all the road work, all of it. They're going to be gone. They cannot survive in that environment anymore. So you're going to have all your tech CEOs and all your big wigs all up in the high rises, and then you're going to have fentanyl zombies on the ground.
Yep.
And after a while, they're going to be like, I can't even go to a restaurant anymore. I can't live here. And they're going to move. They're going to move to Texas. They're going to move to all of the other places that are far, like Austin is just going to invite them in. You know, and all of the other places that they keep relocating to because the taxes are better and it's safe and the lifestyle's better and it's thriving economy because small businesses are thriving because there's no crime. All of those places is where all of these bigwigs are going to take all of their money, and you're going to have Detroit full of zombies. And that's all it's going to be. And that's what I've been saying this about Seattle for years, and they just basically nailed the last nail in the coffin.
That's the way I'm looking at it now, is with the way how hard they pushed into the radical side of the left, harder than any other state in America, by the way. I mean, that's what drew my attention was, wow, they went real hard in the paint this time. I think they are going to lead the way in radical progressive initiatives over California state, where before, functionally, California would pick something and then Oregon and Washington would follow suit within 48 hours. That was kind of the domino effect of the Western Coastal Pact. But I think they're trying to be number one.
Yeah.
So
when Washington state as a whole can out Portland,
yeah,
then you've got a problem. You know, like it is insane that the population at large voted in the 20 percentile in most of those cases above and beyond their own doom and demise.
Yep.
Like,
And it's all the coastal districts, all of them. Like everything inland is dark red, and I'm sure they're furious.
Yeah.
But
even Spokane, I think, was about medium purple.
Yeah.
So it wasn't super, super red, but
you
the
know
rest
why?
of the
Pandemic pushed everybody east when they could work remote because you could buy a house for half the cost in Spokane and still stay in the same state.
Yep.
A lot of them, tons of them, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people.
And it's wild because Spokane is almost as covered in fentanyl zombies right now as downtown Seattle is. You cannot drive down Spokane, in the middle of Spokane, down Division or anything without just seeing camps and camps of leaners and screamers. And yeah, it's wild. And they keep trying to flood them over our border and we don't allow it. So we just ship them right back. So,
I'll briefly pour over the Nevada pieces too, because some Nevada stuff's happening. So we had more initiatives than almost any other state, but the first question was to remove Higher Education Board of Regents from the state constitution. So the proposed amendment to our constitution in the state of Nevada would remove Higher Education Board of Regents from the constitution, allowing the state legislature to determine the governance of the state's university. Okay. We said no, 54.6%. So don't remove the Higher Education Board of Regents from the Constitution. Question 2, changes the descriptions of entities for people with disabilities. I don't know why this made the ballot, but this proposed amendment to our Constitution would change the description of entities serving people with various disabilities and mental illnesses to align with current terminology. Over 50% of the vote would need to be passed. 65% of our electorate said, yeah, change the descriptions of entities for people with disabilities.
So legal word policing, is that what that is?
Yeah, but imagine if I'm a minor attracted person instead of a pedophile.
Gross.
I don't think that's the way they framed the question, but that's the way I read the question.
Yeah.
And so we said, yeah, that sounds great. Update the terminology, whatever the fuck that means. Think, Nevada. Question 3 requires open primaries and ranked choice voting in general elections. The proposed amendment to the state's constitution would require open primaries in which candidates of all parties appear on the exact same ballot, with the top 5 vote recipients for each office advancing to the general election. Ranked choice voting would be used in general elections. Over 50% needs to pass. Requires approval at 2 successive general elections. This question was first approved in 2022. So should we require the open primaries and ranked choice voting in general elections? We said, no, we don't want any of that. 53.3% of us to 46.7% said, no, we're good there. Thanks for playing.
Yeah.
Question 4 prohibits slavery and involuntary servitude. So this amendment would repeal a current provision allowing slavery and involuntary servitude as punishment for crime. We said, yeah, go ahead and repeal it. Now, I was joking with you ahead of this that if you did get sentenced instead of going to prison and you had involuntary servitude for 15 years or slavery, how fun would that be that you got sentenced to indentured servitude where you had to go like clean a bunch of litter boxes or something? Anyway, for reasons that remain unclear, that was part of the state's constitution for a long time. And 60% of the electorate said, yeah, go ahead and prohibit slavery and involuntary servitude. So if you get punished for a crime, there's no chance now going forward that you will be a slave or an involuntary servant. Probably, I would imagine, they would send them to the mines, is what I guess that was, because we're a big mining state. And I imagine that's where a lot of prisoners went involuntarily.
Yeah, that's what it basically, I think that if you read into that bill and you looked into it further, that there'd be some verbiage in there about
there has to be a case or a precedent for that where you're like, well, where did we do this before?
But yeah, so it probably has everything to do with the prison population and them being forced to do hard labor within that system, and that would be considered slavery, and that doing labor is now in your state prohibited. So okay.
So here's we're down to the last three. This one's fun.
No more chain gangs.
No more chain gangs. You can't get sent to the mines. Turns out you could, which I didn't know up until right now. Question 5 exempts diapers from sales tax statewide. The ballot measure would exempt diapers from sales tax. But we said, yeah. 68% of us said, sure. Don't tax the diapers at any grocery store. Just give them to them at MSRP. That's fine. That is literally, there is no fine print. That is one sentence. Exempting diapers from sales tax, yes or no?
I love it when it's clean like
That's
that.
it.
I love it when they're, yep.
So Nevada question 6.
Okay with that. I'm super okay with that.
Yeah, me too. I voted, yeah, don't tax diapers for God's sakes. No. There's enough shit involved anyway. The state doesn't need to get involved in that shit. Creates a constitutional right to abortion was question 6. And the state overwhelmingly said, yep, Nevada needs to have a right to abortion until fetal viability or when needed to protect the life or health of a pregnant woman. So a lot of the fine print is eye of the beholder stuff, but almost 70% of the state wanted to codify that into a constitutional right for the state.
You got to understand that probably had everything to do with Vegas and Reno and the prostitution and sex workers within that area that are like, yeah, you can't put me out of work.
Yeah.
And so
there's a lot.
There's probably a lot of other stuff too, but that right there, I mean, you're talking Vegas.
Sex slavery is a really big problem here, and I think I'm gonna one day dedicate a whole pod to it because lesser known or lesser talked about fact, it is still legal to have brothels in the state of Nevada. You just can't have them in Clark County where Las Vegas is because it would obviously promote sex and human trafficking and stuff like that. So you got to go really, really far. I think there's a bunch in like North Nevada or somewhere in Central Nevada or whatever. Anyway, so that was an overwhelming pass. And then this is interesting. This proposed amendment, question 7, would amend Nevada's constitution and would require people to provide photo identification to vote in person, or if voting by mail, to provide the last 4 digits of their driver's license and social security number for clarification and match. Over 50% of the vote would need to pass. 73.2% of us said yes. Require photo identification and prove who you are to legally vote in the state of Nevada on any issue. And it overwhelmingly passed by over 1 million votes.
That's insane. That's amazing. For the state of Nevada to push that through is amazing.
Yeah. So this was very much a battleground state. We didn't have as many electoral college votes as, say, a Pennsylvania or something like that. This was a really weird card, but that's exactly what happened with all of our thresholds for state constitutional amendments. And by and large, I'm pretty excited with how that turned out overall.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of things that you'd take issue with, but for the most part, it was fairly solid, especially for Nevada, So how did your senator and legislator races go? Are you guys still working those out?
No, Jackie Rosen has been called by AP.
I saw that
will win. Yeah.
Yep.
And
I've been seeing her signs everywhere down there. So
which, that was such a close race. Sam Brown, I believe, was the other guy. Sam Brown. This is it. 687,092 votes for Jackie Rosen, 664,423 for Sam Brown. Real close.
Ooh, yeah, that was a tight one.
So we're talking 47.9 to 46.3, and they're 97% of everybody has been reported in so far. But I believe there's not a mathematical chance for him to win, but it is that close.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy.
And why Jackie Rosen won is because her entire campaign push on every radio station, YouTube ad, television station, all of it for the last 2 weeks of this election push was Sam Brown voting to make abortion illegal, and that also he's going to kill off any what was it? The health bill that would kill off the IVF treatments and stuff for people that are trying to have babies and stuff like that. And they packaged it up like it was a one and done deal. If he votes no for abortions, it also means you can't have kids, and he doesn't like kids, and he wants to kill your dog. And everyone's like, oh, you know. So I mean, like, that was all they pushed in Jackie Rosen's camp for like 2 straight weeks. I was like, come on, guys, these are
and Rosen was the incumbent, right?
Correct. She was the incumbent.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's already hard to dethrone an incumbent as it is. But then if she had to get desperate and throw some grenades out at the end to wrap him up in a kind of a false dichotomy and scandal that doesn't really make sense, man, she barely won that. Mm-hmm. So he ran a pretty good campaign then. So
she had to swing she had to swing quite a bit of votes in North Nevada above the Reno conglomerate, which is basically like North Tahoe, California. But while it was close, most of the reservations leaned red as well for Sam Brown and Donald Trump. So she lost even the independents and the sovereign nation votes as well. And she still pulled it out barely. Yeah. Barely pulled it out. So, you know, overall, like, things I was absolutely tickled with is, like, you got to show your ID to go stand in line now.
Yep.
So I think the state said, we don't want any of this. Let's just be cool with showing our ID to purchase cigarettes, buy a firearm, purchase alcohol, rent a car, or sign a lease, or, you know, vote. So that to me was the biggest surprise, was the overwhelming, landslide victory in favor of photo identification, or if you're mailing it in, a double identifier for your social and your driver's license number.
I think that actually happened across the country. I think anywhere that it was on the ballot, that actually ended up succeeding. So, and also the anomaly of the fact that the only states that Kamala Harris won were the ones that did not require that.
Yep.
Or it wasn't on the ballot to require it. So, but yeah, that's wild. And what was the percentage between Kamala and Trump on that one?
The president race was 50.6% to 47.5%. And we had 8 to 10,000 votes that went to the Libertarian Party.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Chase Oliver and Joel Skousuin, I think. I always fuck that up. Joel Skousuin was a Constitution Party. Chase Oliver was Libertarian. Those votes kind of peeled away the Kamala Harris potential pushback, but just over half of the whole state voted for Donald Trump. So
that's wild.
Yep.
Well, Idaho was pretty much, you can guess the clean sweep, but we had a couple of contentious situations here.
70-30 in favor of Trump, they say. Although 12,000 of you voted for Robert Kennedy.
Yeah, that is true. And I'm basically just going to read my county right now.
Yeah.
Because my county pretty much reflects the rest of the state within a point or two. So, like, for Kootenai County, Donald Trump got 74.8 of the vote, where Kamala Harris only got 22.95. So, which is right in line with what I would have expected. As far as our U.S. representative, of course, Russ Fulcher won handily against Kaylee Peterson in a 74-22. Phil Hart won our District 2 over Tom Hearn, who I'm super glad about because Tom Hearn is a jackass. I hope he hears this, but it was 81-18.
Mm-hmm.
Heather Scott, a dear friend of mine, actually whooped the crap out of Lori Peary, 82-17.
Wow. That's a stout victory right there.
It's a walloping.
Yeah.
there was 3 in District 2, Seat B, because Jennifer Luma, a local around here, who is our kind of our libertarian voice, she got 3.5% of the vote, but Dale Hawkins trampled Tammy Holdall 81 to 15%. And then Legislative 3 District, Doug O beat Brian Seguin 8. I mean, if I go down the line, all of these state reps all got essentially 80% to 20 or less to their Democratic competitor. Except for in our District 4, which is where kind of our blue belt is. It's where all the kind of rich Democrats live in downtown Coeur d'Alene. So our dear friend Ben Taves, he beat Carissa Hober, which she was kind of a contender, but he still got 66 to her 33. Joe Alfieri got 65 to Angela Chandler's 34. Elaine Price had the tightest race with Paula Morano, and that was a neck and neck for a while, but she pulled way ahead with 63 to her 36. So Elaine Price ended up winning handily. These aren't like small victories. These are pretty solid. And then all the other ones are pretty much the same. The ones that really made a difference around here was our county stuff. I was really worried about that Dan Wilson cowboy. And we had a couple of incidences with him that day with some of his support staff, and that throughout that week and that month, it escalated, and it was a pretty dirty race. Robert Norris won that election with almost 69%, 68.94.
Nice.
And Dan Wilson, there was 2 other guys who kind of pulled essentially 10% of the race together if you combine them both. Maybe like 9%. Dan Wilson got 21.86%. Now, that was, people were surprised that he got like 19,000 votes, right? But I love to point out every time anybody brings that up, I love to point out that in Kootenai County, he got less votes than Kamala Harris did. So he was less popular than Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris getting 22,000 votes, him only getting 19. So the county spoke to the cowboy and said, "Go on, get," and
put him on a donkey with his hands tethered behind his back, blindfolded, and slapped the ass on the ass and sent him towards Spokane.
Yep, that's right. Now we had a couple of statewide ballot measures.
Yes.
We also had the
ranked choice voting.
Well, let's do the constitutional amendment first, because we had a constitutional amendment for additional language providing that only U.S. citizens may vote in elections in the state of Idaho. That was something we had on our ballot. So you have to prove that you are a U.S. citizen to be able to vote within the state of Idaho constitutionally, not just a law. It's an amendment to our Constitution.
Yep. Same with Nevada.
68% said yes. You have to be an absolute citizen to vote within the state of Idaho.
If you just go off the percentages, not the per capita, because that doesn't matter. We have way more people than you do. We are more conservative on that than you are by 1 percentage point.
So Proposition 1 was the big one where we spent the vast majority of our summer fighting. And I'll be honest, I thought it was going to either be neck and neck or we were going to lose just due to the campaigning. The amount of money and the lies and the way that they were framing the situation from the other side was insane. It was insane. The amount of money that got put in every commercial I saw on YouTube and on the TV and everywhere was all about, saying yes to open primaries and to ranked choice voting. it got handily destroyed 75-24.
Mm-hmm.
So we absolutely crushed that, which was a huge surprise to me. I did not think that we were going to be able to pull that off, and we did. Outside of that, a couple of local levies passed. The ones that we didn't want to pass passed, and the ones that we did want to pass did not pass. As far as the schools, you know, a lot of the other stuff is kind of just like fire chiefs and
Yeah.
levies for that kind of stuff. But it was overall huge success. I got the sheriff I wanted, I got the president I wanted, I got the Senate I wanted, I've got the Congress I want, and the Dodgers won. So I'm pretty happy.
I think overall it was a statewide, it was a big win for the things that I've been, you know, following and pursuing for my city. Though they, like, all but one of the initiatives to raise property taxes went through, which was like brutal to read. I'm like, damn it. Because there's no real governance structure over how those funds are appropriated once they get paid. It's not quite as transparent as I would like it to be. So it's like, I don't know where this money is actually going to go once it's paid. And that's the part that I wish would have like been congruent with all of these, was some sort of initiative to make it transparent for each city council to have to reveal the budget before it's spent or as it's being spent. Because you really have to go to a city hall meeting to figure that out, like, or a town hall meeting and stuff like that to actually see where this money is going. So I hope they enjoyed my property tax going up, and I hope it goes to the police departments and the fire departments' station houses like they said it would, but I'm a little skeptical. So, but I do have to pay. So that was like this hyper local stuff that happened in my particular city. Didn't really go my way, but statewide and national really wasn't better than way better than I expected outcome. So I think you're on mute. I see your mouth moving, but I don't hear you.
Yeah, I was sorry.
No worries.
And we had played around a little bit with going from site to site with on the federal level on the country with the House results.
Yeah.
Because everywhere you look, it says 214 or 215. They're not really sure, except for I heard yesterday that they had crossed the 218 threshold for the Republicans. Mm-hmm. And actually going into 219, they got 219, and there's still some that are up for grabs they're contentious. But everywhere else that we looked, it said 214 or 215.
Yeah.
Except for at Decision Desk, which is where a lot of the kind of go-to pollers and pollsters all kind of point to. They're kind of the first stop before it hits all like AP and everything.
Yeah.
Decision Desk kind of gives them a lot of their information. So they're saying 219 to 210 right now, but I don't know, man. Like, it could be still at 214 or 215, but
and
like decision.
It's wild how long it's taken them to actually pour through some of these counts too.
Yeah. Yep.
So, like,
well, I mean, there's certain states that took forever, like Alaska and stuff, because they had ranked choice voting. So ranked choice voting takes forever. Same with Maine. Maine didn't come in till like 2 days later.
Yeah. Like,
it was crazy how long Maine took. But I mean, even now, Alaska's still not fully counted. It's 74% in. Even now, it's a week later.
Yeah, and that's a
why
Republican
you don't want
led
ranked choice voting anywhere.
Yeah, that's a Republican led 74%, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And so, like, right now in Alaska, you've got Nick. I don't even know how to pronounce this. Nick Bukit Bejic.
Oh yeah,
Bejic.
I tried and failed
so-
there too.
Yeah, and then Mary Patola, and he's up 49 to 45% with 74 in. He's got at least 10,000 votes on her. Little over 10,000 votes. Like
Yeah, Google
at
says
74%.
Google says vote percentage is 49.4% with 80% reported. So the AP is way, way, way behind Decision Desk at this point.
Yeah.
And that
so
Mary
it's-
Pelota is 45.4%, where he only has a 10,000 vote lead. So
Yeah, but they're not they won't call it on that one, you know. That's ranked choice voting. Looks like House 13 in California. John Durate is up 51 to 49 against Adam Gray. And trying to see, there's a bunch of little counties in here. They're called all over the place. This one, it looks like. Oh, no,
yeah,
that's the same
John
one.
Duarte, California 9, Josh Harder for the Democratic Party is up by 1.8%.
Yeah.
Other
it's at
uncalled areas,
74%.
Jim Costa, Republican David Valadao in California 22. They did call Republican Party Jay Obernoit in California 23 as of W there. Those are all the uncalleds that I can see. Is California 22, 21, 9, 13. That's it.
Yeah. So where else are they still counting? Like, is it just California and Alaska that we're waiting on?
So far.
Because I'm not seeing any other like squiggly lines anywhere else. So, but yeah, pretty crazy election season.
It was. And I'm like, I don't know, dude. I'm beat. I'm weary. Between that and like work and stuff, I'm like, I could take a week and just not get out from underneath the covers, you know?
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
It's crazy. I don't know. And for what it's worth, like you and I would not do this if it didn't matter. Like we're an everything podcast, and I would like to go back to doing some fun stuff now that the election season's over. But we've been saying since late summer, like buckle up. This is going to be a crazy ride all the way to November. And I don't think we're done. I think it's going to go all the way through the inauguration, and then the real assault and battery from the news media is going to continue from there. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, dude, like what overall, it's been a very positive feeling having seen what I saw on Tuesday all the way up to today, except for like the outcries and lashback and, the platitudes and virtue signaling from the left and stuff and the why I oughtas, those kinds of things. Besides all that, I'm mostly encouraged that the country, in an overwhelming fashion, by my estimation, has had enough. They're like, let's maybe take a breath and see what we can do
Press the
through
reset
different
button.
leadership.
Let's get back to normal. Like they realized that we were spinning off course, and they're like, we have to reset. And this is the best way to reset. And so that's what they voted on, and it was overwhelming. He got the popular vote. He got the mandate. He got, it is not even contestable really, unless you're kind of in the weeds conspiratorially, but for the most part, like it's a solid victory in that sense. And I think that like I said at the beginning, we just have a lot of work to do. So let's kind of put the head down
and Washington has a hell of a lot of work to do. Sorry, guys.
Let's switch gears. Did you see anything cool this week?
Cool. Yeah, I watched 13 Hours, which was really good. You
Yeah.
were saying that you were like a huge fan of it. I'm now a huge fan of it. That was a kick-ass movie. It's very gritty. It's very difficult to watch
Yeah.
at times because this is a as real as it gets recounting of, you know, I watched a few YouTube videos of like, you know, Green Beret buddies that react to the movie or whatever that had served in the global war against terror. And they were like, you know,
Yeah.
they really did that one right. I'm surprised, but like, yep, that's kind of exactly or not as bad as it really was that they showed you there.
Right.
So really, really good. And then I watched Navy SEALs with Charlie Sheen from like 1990. Terrible movie.
A contemporary film to 13 hours, I guess.
So bad. Well, it's, you know how it goes, dude. You're like,
Yeah.
you're trying not to drift off to sleep and you don't even know what day it is. And it's like, it recommends this next movie and you're like, yeah, let's go. And you just keep following the rabbit hole down. I was like, cool. We went from 13 hours to Navy SEALs with Charlie Sheen. Fantastic. But nothing like worth sinking my teeth into. And in part, a lot of just trying to get my head screwed on straight after all the election stuff and the work stuff. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it took me a little bit. I was behind on all my drawing this whole week because of it. So
yeah, and you were saying, I think last week, not last week, but the week before that, you're booked through like December or January. So yeah, I know you're
open left in January or in December.
Yeah, your schedule has to be fucking bananas, dude. So
yeah. So I had to draw a sleeve today, and I've got one more to draw for tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was supposed to tattoo my wife today, and I rescheduled her because I was just like, I just can't get to you. I got too much drawing to do. So, and she was fine with that. She had some protest to go to. So,
totally ignore her while you're tattooing her and listen to another Joe Rogan podcast with a politician.
That's right. But yeah, she actually went to.
We love you, Aaron. I'm just kidding.
She went to a protest today downtown Coeur d'Alene at our U.S. Congressman Risch and Crapo to pressure them to vote for Rick Scott for House Speaker. So there was a big protest down there. But as far as 13 Hours goes, yeah, that movie has embedded itself into the continuous streaming at my house. But we make a point of it like a holiday movie. We watch that movie every single September 11th because that's when it happened. It happened on September 11th. So, and it is a reminder to us. It's a beautifully done movie, and just it never gets less intense every time you watch it. Like, yeah, we continue to watch it over and over again, and it's just like if it gets put on, it's like, you know, when you see the movie The Patriot or
highly rewatchable film that like sucks you in at a moment and you're like, oh yeah.
It's like Tombstone. If it's on in the background, you just get sucked into watching it. It's that way for us. And so we love this movie. I highly recommend it to anybody. It is really, really accurate as to how things actually went down for those guys and what an abysmal failure, not even failure, intentional failure that the Hillary Clinton and the Obama administration did during that time frame. And it was disgusting what they did. And these men are heroes and they should be celebrated as such. But the story that was told was incredible. Yeah. And so highly recommend 13 Hours. Some amazing movie making. And so highly recommend that.
It's I think my first 9 meg movie on this podcast.
Wow. Yeah. No kidding.
Yep.
Dang. Yeah,
because I mean, remember
for me too.
Remember, I had some friends that went over there. You know, like they served pretty early in the GWAT, but like by all accounts from those folks and some people on the internet that also served that watched it and did live reactions, it was a thoroughly well done film. So, Navy SEALs. 4 megs. It's good to see Charlie Sheen in a coked out of his mind kind of way in the early 1990s, but beyond that, there's not much to it. So,
I'll be honest, I'm not even sure if I've seen.
oh, it's totally not worth it. It's totally
Who else is in
bad.
that? Like, is that Michael Bain? Is he the one that's in that?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, yeah. I just kind of gave a ground version Top Gun to me.
Yeah.
Like, basically, they're fighting kind of are they fighting anybody, or is it just kind of like same thing with Top Gun where it's the enemy?
It's the enemy. Yeah, it's the innocuous bad guy. Although it has, gosh, who's that guy? He's huge in the 90s. I think he passed away recently. So like within the last 4 or 5 years. Bill something. Let's Google in real time cast of Navy SEALs. Bill Paxton. Bill Paxton in there, and he's always fun to see. He had a ridiculous mustache. It was great.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So.
I saw 2 things.
Yeah.
And one of them is a holdover from the previous week, but I didn't get to review it, but it was really well done, and I highly recommend it, especially as a prequel.
Mm-hmm.
Is Apartment 7A, and it came out in 2024, and it is the prequel to Rosemary's Baby.
Oh, interesting.
And it was actually surprisingly good. It was creepy, it was eerie, it had the same kind of pace and quality and eeriness that it was that the original Rosemary's Baby had, but it was leading up into the part where Rosemary shows up. So and that the building and all the occupants of the building. I don't know if you're familiar with Rosemary's Baby.
She's supposed to be the bearer of the Antichrist in lore.
Essentially, yes. Essentially, that basically Rosemary's Baby is a Stephen King book about a apartment complex in New York that this young couple moves into, and all the occupants who are very nice, very old, or like older, and rich and influential, and she's pregnant. It's a young couple. She's pregnant, and or she's not pregnant yet. And then they move in, and she goes to parties with these people, and has weird, like, they drug her essentially. She doesn't realize it, and she gets pregnant, and ultimately by the end of the movie you realize that these people are all Satanists that all live within this apartment complex, and their job is to find a host for the Antichrist.
Yeah.
And the devil impregnates her.
I mean, as Satanists do, I suppose. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So, but it starred Julie Garner, who I really enjoyed in one of my favorite TV shows. She was in Ozark, which, if you haven't watched Ozark, that is a roller coaster ride of fun.
Yeah, I've seen a few episodes of it. What I watched, I like.
Yeah. She plays the little hillbilly girl that's really smart and got a foul mouth, but she's the main character in this, and Diane Wiest is in it, and it's got a really great cast, and it's just atmospheric. They did a really good job of kind of recapturing that like late 60s, early 70s kind of feel. And they did a really good job of kind of taking you through, like, apparently this is something that continues to happen until they can find the right one. And it is really well done. I would probably give it about 7.5 megs. To the end. Okay. And it was a fun, and it kept me captivated throughout the whole thing. So it was a fun piece. Highly recommend if you're into spooky stuff like I am. But that should basically end my reign of horror films for a year. So
you're 2 weeks into November.
Yeah. But this was all, like, I haven't watched any horror since November 1st, other than election stuff.
Yeah, other than the election unfolding in some states.
Right. So that being said, I did not escape murder. So my daughter, who is very much my wife's daughter,
Yeah.
and goes along with what culturally is the wave of young women and middle-aged women who have an obsession with true crime.
True crime, yeah.
There was a new three-part docuseries on Netflix about the Zodiac killer, and a family called "This Is the Zodiac Speaking." My daughter watched it and she goes, "You got to watch it, Dad. There's no way that this guy didn't do it." So I watched it as I was folding laundry the other night, all 3 episodes, and he wasn't wrong. It was really engaging because it really takes you from a different perspective, not from the cops, not like the movie,
Yeah.
not from like news stories or whatever, or documentaries. It literally took it from the perspective of this family that I'd never even heard of. This family that basically he spent an enormous amount of time with. This woman who had 8 kids, her husband had gone to prison. She had them ranging from middle-aged teenagers down to babies, and he was their school teacher. This guy, Arthur Lee Allen, who was the main suspect for years. And Arthur Lee Allen, who was portrayed in the movie and everything, he was a school teacher who taught the kids ciphers, who knew all of these things. But he had really befriended this family to the point where the mom he'd come over all the time, and the mom would let him take the older 3 kids on multi-day road trips and come back, or take the whole family fishing, or like he was an integral part of their family. They grew up every day with this guy.
Good pair of alibis when you're stacking bodies, maybe something like that.
Well, yeah, there was times that the Zodiac was actually, they were with him at like the beach murder. And he came back with blood on his hands and like pushed the little girl down and goes, "Get in the car. No, I can handle it." And then sped away. But like there's the evidence that gets presented in this. It is impossible for anybody else to have been the Zodiac. I would love to see some contrary evidence.
Yeah.
Because there's just no way. He was literally at every spot.
Well,
that the murders took place.
This is funny because I almost jumped into that one because I had to like rack my brain and be like, when was the last time? And I remember watching, like, I think it was Robert Downey Jr. and Jake Gyllenhaal or whatever doing the Hollywood movie called Zodiac. And I remember that being really good, except that I think it was like fucking 3 hours long or something like that, or it was really, really long. But I was like, oh yeah. And then I was like, well, if this is like that, that's going to consume another 10 hours of. But if you're saying I should dive in, I might actually queue that up because that hit my almost clicked play like a couple of times.
There's just stuff that A was confirming, but also B, like they bring in all of the people like that Jake Gyllenhaal played. In the movie, the real guy actually is part of this docuseries.
Nice.
And a whole bunch of those people get pulled in with this family. And there was a ton of information that I didn't know.
Yeah.
Like they really brought fresh stuff to the case. And so it is something that a lot of these docuseries don't do. You kind of go, yeah, I knew all that stuff. Right. You guys just want to kind of pull a buck off of some exploitation stuff. But this one, I can actually honestly say that I learned a lot about this case that I didn't previously know from the movie or any other documentary or anything like that. And so it was pretty entertaining, but also like, whoa, I did not know that. And so highly recommend it. Kept me engaged through the duration of folding laundry. So I would say probably, I don't know, 7 megs.
Nice.
But yeah, outside of that, I have been watching YouTube that has been making me mad or happy, one or the other. So that's about it.
Yeah, I've been watching the international community's feedback, so to
Reaction.
speak, in reaction.
Yeah.
And the one that Sky News Australia featured on Justin Trudeau of Canada is hilarious. They call him the postmodern Marxist Ken doll. It's hilarious. I was like, oh shit. This Australian chick went hard in the paint. So I'm with you there.
That's amazing.
What do we think? Do we think it's time for The Gospel by Gen Z?
I think so. I think I could use
Been a while.
a little dive into the word.
All right, chapter 28. This is 10 talents. Divine Bro told a parable saying, the number one influencer went on vacation, so he gave 3 logins to some bros to help with the grind. To one, he gave a page with 500K followers, to another 200K, and to a third 100K. And when he came back and asked his bros, WSG, how's the grind? The bro with 500K page said, I made 500K more by crushing it with dance trends and lip syncs. Broski said, let's go, bro. We should collab on my main. The bro with the 200K page said, I made 200K more by doing sketch comedy skits and dad jokes. Broski said, that's what's up. Let's collab on my main, bro. Then the bro with 100K followers page said, to be for real, nobody can work with a mere 100K page, so I just turned off your notifs and left everyone on red. The influencer said, you should have tried not to cringe trends, but since you tried not, behold, you are cringe. Actually. So he said, lose my number, and he blocked the gatekeeper. That's chapter 28. And now it's...
I'm not even sure I understood that one.
Yeah.
That was the first time I didn't really get it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what they're talking about, but all right.
Get the number one influencer can't go on vacation, man.
Yeah.
That's
true.
it. So yeah, we're getting close. Another thing that I found interesting, I got a notification. The book I bought from Dr. Jordan Peterson half a year ago when I went to his book tour for a book that hadn't come out yet, should be coming out in the next couple of days. So I'll be excited when that hits my doorstep. I was like, right, yeah, I forgot. I bought that book while you were touring that book before it even came out. That's right. So We Who Wrestle with God is what it's called, and I can't wait to dive into that. So
yeah, that'd be interesting. I might, I don't know if it's formatted in the proper way, but like it would be interesting to hear like snippets of that. Like if
I don't know, like some of his stuff is very, very easy to consume, like the 12 rules, and then he made a second one of those. Awesome read, awesome. And I put those down because I'm not a big book reading guy. I like books on tape a lot. So I can listen to them without having to like page turn and sit still and stuff. So those are really easy to consume and very, very good. And pretty straight down the middle. Maps of Meaning, his first book, is unbelievably difficult to read. I read it twice, and I get the general like narrative that he's going for, but it is very heavy. It's extremely word rich. I had to Google what some of the words meant. Like it was that kind of book, you know. It's like I don't know, what I would imagine a doctorate level, you know, lecture series would be like from him, kind of thing. So anyway, I'm interested to see where this goes, because a lot's happened in his life personally since the last 2 books to now. So I want to see if the voicing in what he's presenting changes a lot. I loved the conversation though. The lecture was dope. Like it was so cool. The only thing I left for was Q&A before they actually closed up shop, because I knew that traffic was going to be outrageous. Plus I didn't really care to hear the Q&A as much, but that lecture was well worth the price of admission for sure. I would 10 out of 10 would go again. So
I think if I'm not mistaken, he's supposed to be in Spokane here soon.
I believe so. I believe so. Because I remember mentioning like he'll be near you, but not for a long, long time. But that was a long, long time ago. So
Yeah, let me see. First Interstate Center for the Arts tickets. Dr. Jordan Peterson in Spokane, Washington on looks oh dang. No, that's okay. It's on January 21st.
okay.
Yeah.
Wow, one
7:30
day after
p.m.
inauguration, huh?
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, those might be risky tickets to buy.
You never know.
Yeah.
I
Let's
mean,
see
at
how
least
much
it's
they are.
Spokane and not Seattle, right?
Well, it looks like yeah, it's true. Looks like they start off at like 93 and then go up to in the I don't know hundreds. Uh, holy shit, that's 1,000. Most of them are like between $93 and 288, and then you start going into the 400 and 1,000. So I think that's like to get to meet him and stuff.
Yeah, I would
Deluxe.
imagine there's a VIP thing involved
Oh,
in
it's
that. I bought the
deluxe elite
$70
package
like
and hotel packages and stuff.
yeah, I bought the $70 cheap seats one or whatever because I'm like I brought a little notepad and a pen and I just sat there because I just wanted to hear the lecture. Basically, I didn't really care to like converse with anybody or whatnot while I was there.
Right.
And for that, it was mission accomplished. It was really good. So I thought it was time and money well spent.
Well, cool. I might. I don't know if anybody else would want to go see this with me. Possibly, but
Maybe
oh,
maybe the missus would go. I mean, he's just one of the best thinkers and
I don't think she could handle his voice anymore. Like,
oh, is that it?
Well, she doesn't dislike him, but for nearly a year and a half to 2 years, like I would watch something on YouTube
Yeah.
to fall asleep to, typically like Tim Pool or something like that that I'd missed.
You'd
earlier
wake
in
up
the
to
day.
Kermit the Frog.
I wake up every night to Kermit. Like it would just auto go to
Yeah.
Kermit the Frog every single time, and she would just be like, "Why is Dr. Peterson always talking to me when I wake up?"
Right.
Like, so yeah, I don't know if she would be up for that, but yeah.
Fair.
But yeah, outside of that, I might look into going to that. So
Yeah.
it would be, it'd be
In other
interesting.
news too, you're coming back down here pretty soon.
I am.
Week or two,
That
right?
reminds me. Yeah, that reminds me. I may not be available this next week. Due to I'm gonna look at my schedule real quick.
The dreaded
just a-
schedule.
The dreaded schedule. So I leave Friday. For I leave Friday for
Indiana.
Indiana.
Yeah.
Indiana, and then I get back on the 17th. Kate's birthday is the 18th, and next Tuesday would be the 19th. I leave the 20th, but I leave super early in the morning, and I have packing and stuff like that to do.
Yeah, we might take
So
a week off and just go live when you get here.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, maybe the 21st, guys, it might work out. So,
And I
we're
should preface for the avid listener, it is November 12th, which means there's holiday stuff. I'll be traveling, especially around the Christmas holiday. You'll be traveling at least for Thanksgiving. Who knows?
Right.
So it'll be a little hit or miss, but we'll get in where we can, man. I'm not sweating it.
So, okay.
Mhm.
Well, yeah. So, but I'm coming down. I still have a couple more spots available at Mad Monk Tattoo in Vegas between the 21st and the 26th
Nice.
of this month, just in a week or two. But yeah, I have picked up, I think, 3 or 4 appointments now. So if you
Sick.
want to get in, let me know.
It's worth it.
It'll be interesting to see what this trip produces, because I'm feeling optimistic about the amount of volume of work I'll be able to do while I'm there.
Yeah.
So,
And it'll be very close to Black Friday season 2. So promote the crap out of
Oh, yeah.
that if you can. And You probably get a lot more foot traffic, especially where it's located. I think it'll be very good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
So,
groovy, man.
alrighty.
That'll call it for us then. I hope you guys had a safe election season. And we will chat with you as soon as we can. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.